Okay, so I never planned to record this kind of video. So I'm not really sure where to start, but let's delve in. For myself personally, since I was a little girl, I have pretty much always been conscious of racism, colorism, sexism, all the isms that come with being black, being a woman, being deeply melanated, from being from a working class background. And even though I've experienced plenty over the years of disrespect, microaggressions, the silencing, all those things never made me feel the kind of rage I felt just a few weeks ago. It hit me hard on every level. I found myself crying angrily to God because I was tired. I was tired of being disregarded. I was tired of seeing Black women like me being dismissed, silenced, or villainized just for being human. I was tired of having to pray before basic interactions because I didn't want to be hit with some weird microaggression or blatant racism. I was tired of the constant tension of being strong yet overlooked, present but invisible, resilient yet disrespected. And all of this just came to a head for me. I had just been blatantly disrespected at work. I had a real concern about my health, and I was dreading going to my doctor's appointment because I was already bracing myself for the possibility that I wouldn't be believed and that I would have to fight and go back and forth with my doctor just to get a referral, like so many Black women experience when they are dealing with medical professionals, having our pain minimized. And when I was just trying to escape from all the racism and microaggressions and blatant disrespect that I was experiencing in my real life by just zoning out and tuning in to a reality show that was a guilty pleasure for me this summer, but it was a guilty pleasure for a lot of us this summer because it was the most watched reality show. When I would tune in to a show like Love Island, just trying to escape from my day-to-day reality and just stressors, I was seeing the same thing on my TV screen. For many of you who watch the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Tuning in, it was week after week, we were seeing many of the Black castmates on that show receive this weird villain edit, being portrayed in a way that was very different than the reality of what was going on. And we were seeing America respond to the Black castmates, specifically the beautiful young women Shelly and Alandria, very differently than they were responding to the non-Black castmates. When Shelly and Alandria would handle situations directly, emotionally, honestly, and with a level of emotional maturity, they were being casted as mean girls and bullies. Meanwhile, a non-Black castmate was running around engaging in vile, abusive behavior, sexually harassing people, just I don't even want to say crashing out because I feel like that minimizes how dangerous that castmate's behavior was. People were applauding her and saying that, oh, she's so relatable, even though so much of what she was exhibiting was extremely toxic, dangerous, and harmful. And so even that was a point of frustration. And so I share all this because I just feel compelled in this season to speak to Black women specifically because it's a lot for us to carry. And so I want to share with you what are some of the ways that we deal with being justifiably angered, experiencing righteous rage or righteous indignation. How do we deal with that without allowing it to take a toll on our souls and our health? So the logical next question is, what do you do with all of this? Because the anti-Blackness, the disregard in the workplace, the fear of going to the doctor, the microaggressions, the racism, it's not imagined, it's real. And even when you're trying to unplug, you get hit with it. It's like James Baldwin famously said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be enraged almost all the time. And listen, I feel that, but I also know that I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live constantly enraged. And I don't want to completely numb and shut down so that I don't feel the rage. So what do you do? What I will say is that, unfortunately, I do not have it all figured out, but I am learning. And what I plan to do is share with you what I'm learning over the next few videos, because I just feel so compelled to just love on and minister to other Black women in this season who I know are feeling so many of the things that I'm feeling, that I have felt. And so I want to share with you all what I'm learning, what's working for me. And so I'll start with this. To the women who look like me, to the women who look like my mother, who look like my grandmothers, I want to share with you what my mom told me the other day. She said, baby, you are not glass. You don't break. You are a diamond. You get better under pressure. And Lord knows at that moment, I needed that reminder. And maybe you do too. Maybe you need to be reminded that there is a holy resilience inside of you. This world will not break you. What we see on earth is not all there is. God is just. Justice will come, and that is a guarantee. But in the meantime, I do want to encourage you with a couple scriptures. The first one is Matthew 11:28-30. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Also, Psalm 55, verse 22, reminds us to cast your burden on the Lord, release it, and he will sustain you and uphold you. He will never allow the righteous to be shaken, slip, fall, or fail. So, if you're in a place like I was, where your heart is filled with righteous rage, righteous anger, if you're trying to figure out how to process it all, but you don't know how, start here. Pour out your heart to God, fully and raw. Be honest. The other week, I found myself in that place. I was sobbing, screaming. I was furious. I was literally yelling to God, this is why it's so hard for me to trust you. I've tried to do all the right things, and I feel like I still was wronged. I was just keeping pouring out my heart very honestly to him. And what I can tell you is that every time that I've poured out my heart sincerely, not performatively, but sincerely to God, God has met me. My rage has never been too much for him. He has soothed me, comforted me, given me a fresh perspective. He has refreshed me in a way that only he can. And I'm so grateful that I know him and that I experience him in that way. And I encourage you to experience him in that way. If there's nobody else on earth that you're able to be vulnerable and to pour out your heart to, know that God, our maker, creator of the universe, pour out your heart to him. He will meet you every single time when you are sincere and you are raw and you are honest. So that's where you start. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. Don't fake being unbothered, since I guess that's the cool thing now. Everybody wants to be unbothered. No, be bothered. Say what's real. Be honest. Pour it out to God. Tell God that you felt disrespected, you felt disregarded, you felt dehumanized, you felt like you didn't deserve what you got. You feel like you're being humiliated while the smug, the proud walk and they seem to be doing wrong and it just be without consequences. Cry, weep, get ugly. Pour it out. Tell him you're disappointed. You feel like you put your trust in him and you got disappointed. Be real. Pour out your heart to God like water. That's step one. Because once you pour out your heart to God and you get all the raw, ugly emotion out, then you can show up in the world, at work, in your relationships, at the doctor's office, and speak with power. Not from rage, but from clarity. Recently, I had this experience before a hard conversation. I was literally praying, sobbing, pouring out my heart to God, bawling beforehand. But when it came to me actually speaking and having the conversation with the individual, I was calm, I was clear, I was direct. I was able to tell the person without being overcome with emotion that I felt like the respect I always gave was not reciprocated. That their actions made me feel disregarded, devalued, and I didn't deserve that. I didn't minimize my feelings to try to alleviate their guilt. I wasn't trying to play nice. I had already released my emotion to God so I could deliver my truth with strength and stability and power. And so that's the first step. Pour out your heart to God, let him restore you. Then you show up emotionally honest and grounded in your truth. You show up in total control. But see, a lot of us, we don't do that first step, right? And so we don't ever process the emotion. We never pour it out. We just bottle it up. And so when we're faced with the people who have wronged us, We try to pretend to be stoic and unbothered, but that just turns into bitterness and resentment. Or because we haven't processed and let out the raw emotion, when somebody does engage in conversation with us, we're flying off the handle to the point where we almost seem hysterical. We're yelling, we're screaming, where people can't even hear what we're saying. That's why that first step is you got to pour it out to God raw. He can handle the raw rage. And in that way, when you're faced with that individual, you can be very honest and you can speak from a place of power, because you telling another person your actions, they didn't take me into consideration. Your actions, they hurt. They were very hurtful. And I'm not angry, but I've been legitimately angered by what you've done. You can say that with clarity, without being overcome with the emotion and screaming and, flailing all around, because you've gotten that all out your system. You've poured that all out to God. And now you've allowed God to give you the grace and the power to speak your truth, to speak the truth to that individual without your voice shaking, without you hesitating, but you being just very raw and honest, because you deserve to be heard. And it's okay for you to express your feelings. And sometimes we keep stuff bottled up, especially as Black women, because we feel like we can't be vulnerable, or so many times when we have been vulnerable, it's been met with indifference. So we keep that all bottled up and it just kills us because it leads to resentment and bitterness. But no, I don't care how you respond to it. You're going to hear what is true. You're going to hear the impact that your actions caused. You can do with that what you will, but I'm not going to sit and keep that thing bottled up. But you're able to show up in that powerful way, not caring how it lands with the other person, not caring how they respond to it, not needing them to respond in a certain way to your truth. When you've done the work to pour out the emotion, when you've laid it all out to God and you've allowed Him to minister to you on the front end, so that you're not going into that conversation looking for validation of your feelings. You're going into that conversation saying, I'm clearly stating how I feel, and I don't need you to validate my feelings in order for it to be real or legitimate. It's two different places. So I think that's where you can start when you're thinking through, how do you navigate, how do you process these daily injustices? So this is what's been working for me. This has been my first next step. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section, how you are processing as Black women some of the injustices that you go through on a daily basis. Also, as I mentioned before, I do coaching specifically focused on workplace matters. And so if you're interested in support and coaching, I'm going to drop the link in the description box so that you can schedule a coaching call with me if you'd like. So I'll leave you with the same reminder that my mother gave to me. Precious, remember that you are not glass. You do not break. You are a diamond and you get better under pressure. And you remember that. Remember you have that holy resilience inside of you. Know that I see you. I've been and felt so many of the things that you felt. And I am definitely praying for those who are going through just feeling that righteous anger and rage, and just praying that you experience the refreshing, the comfort, the soothing that I have experienced going through all of this. As you pour out your heart to God.